So I think that's a good segue into the epilogue Atonement, because and I'll start this off before we actually get into the meat and potatoes of it here. Um, I never really see this in a book, um, and especially one, it's an opinionated book. You
Yeah.
are providing the truth, and so you use a bunch of different people to say, okay, like if you look here, this isn't the truth. If you look here, this is the truth. And I think that what can get lost in that is we point somebody out and says, okay, this is falsehood.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that everything that person says is false. And I
Right.
think that's something that because we have we're so polarized and we have such we're living in an echo chamber. The second we hear that somebody has a different point of view than us, we shut them off and we think that they're the worst person in the world because they don't see the world as we do. And I know there's one person in particular here, that I have quite a few disagreements with, but nonetheless, um, I agree with what you say about this individual in terms of some of the positive things that they've said, and I think that's something that we need to really look at, and it's difficult at times because it does take a level of humility. It takes a level of being able to look at things objectively and think critically. And then it kind of eases the air. It brings people back to reality rather than this, let's bring out the pitchfork and run and chase people down. It's like, it humanizes again. And I think that's really important, especially when we're discussing the topic of love. In Even though we're painting, you are painting somebody in a specific light in the book based off of the contents within the book, you are sure that nonetheless you are extending that olive branch. You are showing love to your fellow human by painting them as being human.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's definitely the goal here. So I included this section because I knew it was, an opinionated book, and I've had my experiences with listening to or reading opinionated things, uh, and I try to see as many sides of th as I can, and it can be very frustrating. And I've also had many experiences of someone who I like and agree with, and they either, you know, say something great about this person over here, or say something terrible about this person over here, and I go look at either of those, and it's like, okay, well, I see some of what you said, but I also see stuff that I don't like, or here I see why you don't like them, but there's some good stuff in there. So, so yeah, that was my goal, is just to have that sort of cap on the end of the book of, we're talking about ideas and we're speculating on ideas and we're trying to figure out ideas. We're not on teams battling people. And I mean, that is the goal of thought, is that we let our ideas die in our place. So if we're focused on destroying ideas, destroy ideas with facts and logic, well, you destroy the ideas, you don't destroy the people, right? And hopefully, the goal is that you destroy their ideas so that they can live a better life. Like if you actually do it well, if you actually are um, getting to the truth and you are able to share that with them, then that is a good for them. So you are actually trying to do good for them. And then so on. I think also it, as you sort of alluded to, it hopefully, makes it go down a little bit smoother and opens the door for those people to be like, hey, you are welcome to criticize back for sure, but you're also welcome to take any of this in stride and not engage in this sort of teamsmanship aspect of like, oh, he called me out, therefore I have to call him back out. Just like, I mean, if I made some good points, feel free to jump on my side and be like, oh, thanks for pointing that out. And I'll be like, oh, cool. Thanks for some of the work you did. That reminds me of, I forget what passage it is, but somewhere in the Bible it says, um, if you, it's something like, if you rebuke a brother and he repents, or if you rebuke an enemy and he repents, you've gained a brother, something like that. So it's like the people who are your enemies are actually your brothers. And if you get them on your side, like, how much the better. Um, so yeah, so I go through and I've got a list, and we won't go through nearly all of them, but I just said, I've really extolled people like David Deutsch, Leo Tolstoy, Douglas Murray, Joseph Campbell, Jordan Peterson, and I think his name is Brad Warner, the guy who translated the Dogen text that I used. Um, and I've derided people like especially Benatar and Harari. And so I take some time to point out things that I think Benatar and Harari did well and agree with on them, and take time to venture some criticisms of Deutsch and Murray and Dr. Peterson and all those figures. So I don't know, maybe we'll talk about the Harari one. You alluded to that. But I don't know, we can pick a couple out that might be somewhat interesting just to comment on. Um, I'll say with Benatar, I included his biggest piece earlier in the book because he actually appropriately identifies the relationship of purposelessness and God, which is something I've never seen someone do, where people think of purpose and purposelessness as like these opposites, but he's like, well, if God is infinite and God is perfect, he wouldn't have a purpose because purpose implies a lack. And so the fact that he correctly diagnosed that uh, was a good insight, and it was helpful in my argument because that's part of my argument. So having him, a person I'm disagreeing with, already agreeing on this point, that was helpful. So I was able to use his argument in my book, and I was happy to see that he got that, even if it's surprising based on the rest of his work.
Yeah, I was trying to look at that, look specifically for the Harari uh part, but I remember him condoning or him talking about meditation as being something good, right?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, I give him that point. I give him that point. I mean, I still think he's a 007 grade world villain. But hey, you know what? I think that's such a that's really important to find similarities, especially if you're going into a discussion or a conversation or argument, a debate with somebody that you vehemently disagree with.
Right.
At some point, maybe, I would actually say, prior to actually going on to debate or having that discussion, it's good to think of similarities that already exist,
Mhm.
between you two. And we see this in movies and stories all the time. You see heroes and villains. It's like, oh, you like vanilla ice cream? I like vanilla ice cream too.
Yeah.
Just find these commonalities. Um, and I think that that's probably one of the biggest forms to kind of calm the waters. It's almost when somebody comes up and tries to humanize somebody that you're against or that somebody's against you. Oh, you don't want to believe it. Don't tell me any good things about this person because I'm already so set on them being this way, and I can't,
Right.
distract me. Um, and so I think that especially going through COVID, going through these past few years, there are certain individuals that have come to light that, at least from my understanding, being the peasant that I am, I'm not in the rooms with these people. I don't know who they are. And so the picture that at least has been painted for me by people that I would at least moderately trust their opinions and some of the words that I've heard coming out of their mouths, they seem to be very despicable people, people that want to kill other people. And so it would be kind of hard you know, to go to somebody like Bill Gates and say, hey man, like I really like your sweaters. You guys, you got a good taste in sweaters. I like sweaters too. Let's go grab some coffee. You might identify certain qualities within individuals that you can connect with those things, but would you consider that to be kind of a fault if you see somebody, like Hitler or somebody that is just so despicable, uh, that a lot of those things don't even come to account, right? That where
Right.
does that make sense? Where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So no, I think this is a good distinction to make, because this is where it gets difficult. And again, the point of this is about dealing with ideas in the best way possible. And so it can have the added chummy effect of like, hey, we agree on this point, like we can kind of get along and joke for the moment. Um, that's fine, but that also like I'm not going to share a joke with Hitler.
right,
That would be inappropriate. There are people who get to the point where you're like, I mean, well, what is it? Blessed is he who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. Like you don't there are people who are wicked enough that you're not supposed to be comrades with them. You're not supposed to be uh affiliating with them in any shape or form. And being too lenient would be a flaw. But that's about the person. That's about how you're relating to the person. So you're like, okay, this person is like possessed by this ideology. He's done all these terrible things. He wants to do more. Like, keep that person at arm's distance. But if that person, let's say that you are a whatever expert in nuclear physics, and let's just say it's whatever, it's Putin, and Putin's just the worst thing in the world, but he says, I think we need to work on a deal that involves trading uranium or whatever it is so that we can make um, modular nuclear reactors that don't have the ability to be weaponized, that don't have the ability to melt down. That way, we can provide power to people and not increase the risk of nuclear war, whatever it is. Let's say that makes sense. I'm not a nuclear physicist. I don't know if any of that's definitely true or not, but let's just say that he said that, and you, as a nuclear physicist, you're like, actually, that's true. And we don't want nuclear war, yes, and these things actually cannot be weaponized. So, like, why not affirm that idea? And then that does get you the toe in the door of like, hey, I'm a reasonable person. I'm not just against you because you're you. I'm against you because you have crazy bad ideas. That one idea you just had, as far as I can tell, is not crazy bad. Now, obviously you can spin whatever hypothetical off of that pretty easily. But the point is, this is about relating to ideas, right? It is about humanizing people at the same time, but those are two separate things. So you want to be able to engage as rationally as possible and as objectively as possible with ideas, as disconnected from the people as you can. And on a human level, you want to be able to humanize the other people as much as you can, but that exists within reality. And if there is a person who is actually an evil person, while you should regard them as a tragedy and a fallen being and wish for their redemption, that doesn't mean that you pretend like they are a normal, sane, loving person who you just have an average disagreement with. So I think those are two different camps that can coexist, and you can weigh those two things separately.
right. Yeah, I think that's a big one. It's like, a clock is right at least twice a day. Um,
Or let's say
there's a Go ahead.
this just popped into my head, like the reverse situation of like, this person is my friend, but I can look at their ideas and say, hey, man, I don't think you got this one right.
Right.
Right. Like if you bleed it too much and you say, well, this person is my friend, so I'm just never going to criticize them, then that's a problem. Um, or even worse, if you say, this person's my friend, therefore I'm going to agree with all of their ideas, like even beyond just criticizing them, just be like, oh, I'm just everything they say is um, wonderful, and I just agree, the best idea, like that is an inappropriate uh relationship. I mean, maybe the person knows what they're talking about, but um if you bleed over on the other side of friendliness, of just, and the person's a good person, so why criticize them? Like, well, actually, in the realm of ideas, the purpose is criticism, conflict, and finding the best one. In the realm of human relations, we relate with people in certain ways based on who they are, and there should be a broad swath of like people that you can relate well with, and uh, then some lines where you can't. But I don't know, that just occurred to me as maybe helping illustrate the issue.
Yeah, the emphasis on the idea, not the person, is a strong one. Like if you, myself, and Harari were in a park, and Harari said, "Hey guys, let's go get some cookies," and you said, "Hey guys, let's go sit on some cacti," I would say, "Harari, you got a good idea. Rob, you don't have a good idea."
Yes.
So I think that you're an incredible person and that he's a monster. I can say that he has a
Yeah.
good idea and you don't have a good idea,
Right.
and be okay. Not just say, Rob, yeah, let's go sit on cacti because you're my best friend and I want to go do what you want to do. And if you want to go sit on cacti, well, then oh well, that's what we're gonna do.
Right. Right.
And that's then falling into the camp of somebody can never do wrong.
Right.